If you're concerned about the history being taught in school or not being taught in school, this is for you. Welcome to Race Critical. This is American history for the future. The future is a complicated place. In the present, things are getting harder and harder to navigate. The economy is getting tougher. The students who are going to be successful in the future will have to outthink everyone. That's true today. It will certainly be true in the future. We have to outthink the competition. We have to look at the world more critically and look beyond the surface. And I think history gives us an opportunity to do that. Malcolm X said, of all our studies, history is best qualified to reward our research. So we're going to use American history. Over the next year, this course will show you not just what's on the surface, but let's think deeper. Let's think more critically. We're going to use American history to help people think critically. And maybe it's not just do this. Maybe you didn't like what you were taught in school and you want a better education. Let's do this together. So history is interesting. You can understand the world and history by looking at three powerful motivators. The first one is money, and that's obvious. People want more money. People do the things that they do because they want more money. The second one is power, and I think of power as the degree to which you can control the world around you, right? How much control do you have over your world? And then the last one is race/nationality. Someone's race or their country of origin, nationality. Those three powerful motivators, you can pretty much explain most things. So let's dive into this. We're going to start with the American Revolution, okay? The American Revolution, in school you were probably taught like, this was about taxes and freedom and liberty. Not all the way true, right? There's way more to that. If you want to understand the American Revolution, this is really a conflict between elite American colonists and the British. These elite American colonists, they're wealthy, they're powerful, but they want more money and they want more powerful. They see the King of England blocking them, and that is at the core of this conflict of the American Revolution. Now, to understand the revolution, you got to start with the context. What was going on at that time or right before that? And what you have going on is the French and Indian War. Now, again, look at the maps, right? If you look at this map, you have the British hemmed in east of the Appalachian Mountains along the coast, the East Coast. And then west of the Appalachian Mountains, pretty much all of that is France, right? France is claiming all this territory. If you look at it, you would think France is going to dominate, but that's not what happens. As you know, the British pretty much have control of North America. The other thing that's interesting when you look at this map, why are these European powers even there? Were they just bored in Europe and have anything to do? No, they want to make more money and they want more power. The North America, as they understand it, is full of maybe gold and all these metals, animal furs. They're trying to make money, but also they want to control more of the world. And so if they can get more territory, they control more of the world. That's why they're there. That's the only reason they're coming there. Now, the other thing interesting about this, if you look at this map, it also shows us race and national origin, because you see a lot of nations. You see Spain, you see Britain, you see France. You don't see the Delaware nation. Where's the Shawnee nation? Right? Where are the Cherokee? Where are all these Indian, so-called Indian nations who absolutely live there, but they're not on the map? Who made the map? Right? You have a map that is, comes from a European perspective. And so when we look at that map today, it gives us the impression of the Delaware don't matter. These people don't count. So you see race, right? National origin, it becomes important because we're looking at this map and we're viewing the world in a certain way that completely discounts these people. However, at that time, these colonial powers, they did not discount these people. In fact, if you look at all this French territory, France doesn't have a big, huge military that could take because the British, as you can see, there's contested territory. Look at those blue lines intermingling with the red. Britain wants to make more money. They want all the animal fur over here. They want all the gold. They want whatever's there. But they can't do it even though they have a superior military, because France has really good alliances with those Indian nations. And because of that, the British just can't run over there. The French really, they work really hard to cultivate those alliances. Because again, they don't have the military strength that the British have. And so they depend on these Indian nations to sort of help them hold down this area so that they can keep making money. And again, these Indian nations, they want to make more money too. They're trading with the French and the British because they want the guns and all these other things. Everyone's trying to make money here. So the way that the French really, cultivate those alliances with these Indian nations, endless gift giving. In Indian country, it's about giving gifts because from the Indian perspective, we don't know you. You just came from over the Atlantic Ocean. We don't know who you are. But if you're a friend and if you're an ally, you give gifts. It could be alcohol, it could be guns, it could be jewelry, whatever. It doesn't matter. You come from a completely different continent. There's a world of things that you have that we don't know about. Give us gifts and prove to us that you're an ally and a friend. And the French did this beautifully. They really paid attention to this. The British are coming over and they're trying to set up colonies and but the French are they're trading, they keep some presence there, but again, they're working with those relationships to keep everything cool. And that's what they're doing. But the British, they want that land. And so that ends up causing a conflict, and that leads to the French and Indian War. And so the French, for the most part, are fighting with the French against the British. And the British realize we've got the muscle, but it's those Indian alliances. If we can get them out of the way, right? If we can convince these Indian people to stay neutral and not fight with the French or to fight with us, we've got a shot. And so the way they do that is gifts. They invest a lot of money giving gifts, trying to cultivate alliances with these Indian nations and telling them, look, we're not trying to take your land. We just don't like the French. They're terrible. But once we get them out, everything is cool. And so the British strategically cut off French supplies. They make it so that the French can't get any more supplies across the Atlantic into this territory, and that cuts off the gifts. And so now Indian nations are looking at this, the gifts are drying up, the diplomacy isn't happening, and the war is turning. And so they say, all right, we may need to reconsider this. Maybe we stay neutral, or some of them fight with the British. And ultimately the British do win that. They win the French and Indian War. Now, when that happens, this becomes a really big problem because now they're broke. They spent 60 million pounds, which was a lot of money back then, but certainly it's a lot of money today, right? But it's certainly a lot back then. And they've been giving all these gifts to Indians, and so they're broke. And so they say, look, we need money bad, and it's about to get a lot worse because they need 10,000 troops in North America. Why do they need 10,000 troops in North America? The war is over. Well, after the war, they say we can save some money by just not giving all these gifts to Indian nations. And so when Indian people see that, these British, the French left, the French are gone. And so now the British are here. They're setting up military forts. They're occupying our territory and they're not giving gifts. This looks like you're trying to take over. This doesn't look like you're friends of mine. And so out of that, all these Indian nations who are separate independent nations, they come together and they realize we have one common enemy and they go crazy. It's called Pontiac War. There's a Dawah war chief named Pontiac, and so he's one of the main figures. They give the British everything they can handle, and the British finally say, look, we can't do this. We give up. How about this? We're gonna do a few things. Now, they had promised colonists all this land in the West, but now they backtrack and say, actually go back east. Nobody, look, we can't do this anymore. And so they actually make a rule that no one can do private sales in Indian territory. Only the crown can do that. We don't want everyone out. Hey, shut this down. They also draw a line down the Appalachian Mountains. This is called the Royal Proclamation of 1763. They draw this line and say nobody can go west. Now, a lot of people still do it, and the British Army will sometimes pursue them, and sometimes they even burn down those settlements just to make the point, like, no, really, don't go out here. But they don't have enough muscle to do that. And so to the common person, this is an annoyance, but it's not a deal breaker. They can still try to go west. The people that this really affects are the wealthy, elite colonial figures who have been investing a lot of money into those Western lands, who thought they were going to make a lot more. Like, they were already rich, but we're gonna get really rich once everyone goes west and we can sell these lands. People like George Washington, John Adams, Patrick Henry, Benjamin Franklin. Do you recognize these names in American history? Thomas Jefferson. Do you recognize these names? These are the men who are really affected. Colonial elites who were down with the crown. They were down with King George III, but now they're blocking the money. George Washington even writes his real estate agent about this. Like, people start to really think differently after the Royal Proclamation of 1763. And so this is a seed planted that ultimately grows into what we know as the American Revolution.